very good evening to you with a Friday, August 10th edition of the CBC Evening News. I'm Ryan Broom and our top story. The National Housing Corporation is intensifying its campaign to collect arrears and rid itself of delinquent tenants. More locks have been changed and this program will continue next week.
More changed locks at NHC estates across the island. In recent days, one at Deacon's for $2,100, another for $6,500. At Rosemont, the arrears there $2,500. At Grisette's, one for $5,900 and the other $6,300. The numbers at two other estates are staggering. At Valerie, $23,450 and $29,922. At Pinelands, $29,450. According to the NHC source, 19 locks will be changed next week. The source explained there are some Barbadians living in dire conditions, and so for those who don't pay, the agency is forced to continue this process because of the genuine demand for its rental units. Michelle Arthur, CBC News.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, even though sewage is no longer flowing on the streets of the South Coast, the issue is not over as yet. Minister of Energy and Water Resources Wilfred Abrams says government and BWA crews are working around the clock to resolve it. Speaking during a media conference earlier today, he says the situation is still a crisis and the next step includes building a temporary outfall of Graham Hall.
The Water Resources and Energy Minister says construction of the outfall will start in the next 2 weeks.
We are going to be constructing an outfall off of Graham Hall. We're likely to start that within the next 2 weeks. I think the time frame for completion of that is about 2 months, all things being equal. What that does, that again is not the solution because we don't wish to be pushing the sewage, although it will likely not affect, or we hope it will not affect the beaches in Barbados. The fact is we don't want to be polluting the sea unnecessarily. But in order for us to continue the fixes, no matter what the fixes are, it requires us to do something with the sewage. We cannot fix the lines if the lines are fully charged of sewage.
That outfall is estimated to cost around $2.4 million and is needed as the disposal wells which were previously dug have failed.
With respect to the wells, we are starting the cleaning of the wells because the wells are clogged. The wells have failed or failing. So we are starting the cleaning of the wells today. So we're going to clean each one and finally measure it because we still don't know what the actual depth of the wells are. And this is going to be a process that takes about 6 weeks. Yeah, about 6 weeks to complete because you have to clean one, make sure that it is fully clean first before you divert into that one and free up another one to then be cleaned. You can't clean all because then we're going to have the problem as to what to do with the reduced capacity of the well system.
Officials are also working to clean canals near Graham Hall Swamp.
What people don't know is that at one part of Graham Hall, it was constructed that there are a lot of parallel channels. So as opposed to the outflow going straight from the plant down to the sluice gate and into the sea at maximum bacterial content, you send it down these channels, which increase the time by over 3 or 4 times. That allows a lot of the bacteria to break down so that what ends up being disposed of is significantly less troublesome.
The minister has promised another update on the matter next week. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Thanks, Rianne. Well, staff at First Citizens Bank returned to the job today. This follows 2 days of protest action. According to the Barbados Workers Union, the action resulted from the bank failing to stick to its end of a 2016 agreement for a percentage of its profits to be shared with staff. Now, management of the bank and the BWU have now worked out a tentative agreement after marathon talks. The details of the agreement are expected to be finalized during further talks when the two sides meet again. In other news, government is promising to stamp out corruption by public officials with its much-touted Integrity in Public Life Bill. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Dale Marshall says it is time to modernize Barbados' legislation. He notes that at present, it is functioning under a 1929 Act, which only carries a small fines for those who run afoul of the law.
The U.S. can't charge anyone under that legislation. That's the Barbados statute. But the fact is that if occasion arose today for us to bring a charge against someone, it would be a misdemeanor under our law, and the maximum fine would be $2,400. This therefore brings into sharp relief the importance of bringing in a speedy manner to the people of Barbados our Integrity and Public Life Bill, which will see modernized legislation and will also see a significant uplift in the fine, so that it will really be a penalty that will be capable of exacting exactly the amount of the bribe, that would have been extracted.
The draft legislation will go before a select parliamentary committee on August 27th, and the proceedings will be streamed live on social media, radio, and CBC TV 8. Mr. Marshall says it will be done in a transparent manner, and the public will have an opportunity to inspect the draft legislation. The Barbados Fire Service is aiming to improve the quality of service it offers. Dozens of firemen and women have undergone supervisory management training at the University of the West Indies Open Campus. 40 fire officers who completed 40 hours of training were presented with their certificates during a recognition ceremony at the campus's Pine St. Michael location. Chief Fire Officer Al Maynard gave the assurance the fire service is committed to the advancement of its officers.
We recognize that there were some gaps, skill gaps, knowledge gaps, and performance gaps. These gaps could not have been filled by wishing them away, by paying a blind eye to them, or by elapse of time. Time does not heal everything. Therefore, action had to be taken. We acted and solicited the help of the University of the West Indies Open Campus. They acted, and you responded positively. It is my understanding that all of you were successful, and I congratulate you. Congratulations.
And Quality Assurance Officer at the Open Campus, Dr. Pamela Doughton, is all for the acquisition of new knowledge. She encouraged the officers to put what they've learned into practice.
Today, I charge you with the responsibility of being a beacon of the attributes of an excellent supervisor. Be the type of mentor you may or may not have had. Be the confidential listening ear. Identify the skills of the persons for whom you are responsible, and delegate with wisdom, compassion, and confidence. Be like the lighthouse, which guides the ships safely to harbor.
Despite being unexpectedly chosen as Barbados' High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Reverend Guy Hewitt believes his 4 years in the position have been satisfying. Speaking during an interview about his time as High Commissioner, Reverend Hewitt says he never thought he would have been chosen, but he knew he had to accept the call. He believes his biggest achievement was his involvement in Windrush, an issue which received international recognition.
If I look back on all of the things that I've done here, it is the most significant. Our role as a mission is to be there to help people in need. And I don't think there was a greater need amongst the Barbadian and the Caribbean community than the issue of Windrush. Right. I commend the British government. My role is a diplomat. So I told people it is not to look for conflict, but to work towards resolution. And I have commended publicly the Prime Minister, the then Home Secretary, for the public apologies, for the commitments made. As you said, for the announcement of a Windrush Day.
Some of the island's biggest youth advocates will be discussing major challenges to young people this Sunday at the Barbados Museum. They'll be a part of the Hues of Youth Showcase, an initiative put on by Barbados Youth Development Council in celebration of International Youth Day. Speaking at a press conference for the event, President of the BYDC, Roshana Trim, said it's a day to highlight the issues affecting young people, and she also mentioned some of the event speakers.
Ronald King, founder of Life in Leggings. She will speak to Safe Spaces. Michael Rapley from Equals Barbados, as well as Fiona Boboya. These are three very key sections of our society that often feel marginalized and seek to create safe spaces for young people through what their advocacy plan is and what their mandate has been.
Now, the theme for this year's International Youth Day is Safe Spaces for Youth. A program analyst with the United Nations Population Fund's Office for Barbados and the OECS, Denise Blackstock, explained the importance of safe spaces.
While there are many types of spaces, safe spaces ensure the dignity and the safety of youth. Safe spaces, such as civic spaces, enable young people to engage in governance issues. Public spaces afford young people the opportunity to participate in sports in the community. Digital spaces, for example, help young people to interact virtually across borders with everyone, and well-planned physical spaces can accommodate the needs of diverse youth, especially those vulnerable to marginalization and violence.
In Guyana, 2 Russian nationals are in custody as police continue to probe video footage showing them assaulting a Guyanese minor. We have a report from HGP TV.
The police say the men are sworn supernumerary constables and authorized to carry firearms. The 2 Russians have been accused of using excessive force during a confrontation with a ranger who is employed by a private local mining company. Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman said the police and a government team visited the area on Tuesday, and preliminary investigations suggest that the incident resulted from a disagreement over mining claims.
It would appear that there's some dispute about claims and blocks and who goes where, and I am concerned about foreigners having weapons, licensed weapons. I'm told that precepts were issued. Precept is really a kind of a permission given by the police force to persons to act as security guards and also to carry firearm licenses. I'm concerned about that and the number of persons who may have them, because of course, you know, we get daily reports about the interior being a kind of a Wild West place. So to me, the more guns there are, the more incidents of gun use we are going to find.
Minister Trotman pointed out the need for greater police presence in the mining areas and said the government is considering that option.
We recently launched the Corps of Wardens, and that Corps of Wardens will come alongside the police force when necessary to assist, not just with law and order, but of course to ensure that the laws, mining laws, forest laws, wildlife protection laws, etc. are respected.
Law enforcement authorities in Jamaica say they have seized cocaine with a street value of 13 million Jamaican dollars. The drugs were discovered as officers were inspecting a shipping container that arrived from Venezuela. Police and the contraband enforcement team of Jamaica Customs were inspecting the container at a port in Kingston. The force's corporate communications unit says 28 kilograms of cocaine was found. The 25 packages containing the cocaine were concealed in the container. No one has been arrested in connection with the seizure. Well, Sports World is up next, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Before the arrival of a hurricane, you should prepare a detailed emergency plan which should be shared with all members of your household. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.